5 true scary stories of family secrets that will haunt you forever. There are family stories that are shared around dinner tables, stories that bring laughter, pride, or nostalgia. But there are others, stories whispered in the dark, secrets kept away from the light. This collection delves into 5 such tales. Real stories, each more disturbing than the last, each revealing the darkness that can lurk within family walls. Family. For most, the word conjures warmth, safety, shared histories, and belonging. We cling to these ideals, believing that blood binds us and that the people closest to us are those who will love us unconditionally. We celebrate holidays together, share meals, make memories, and fill homes with generations of possessions, reminders of those who came before us. And yet, sometimes, the legacies that linger in family homes or passed down through heirlooms bring with them an unsettling residue of the past. Secrets and scars, betrayals and heartbreak, all bound tightly in the same bonds we cherish. Like ghosts in the attic, these hidden truths remain tucked away in the back rooms of memory, only to re-emerge when we least expect them. Everyone has secrets. Some are small, inconsequential things, a child's diary, a keepsake hidden in a drawer. Others, though, carry a weight, like an old house left to gather dust, holding a history that we'd rather ignore. These stories are not the gentle, nostalgic tales shared over dessert or the feel-good recollections that bring families closer. No, these are the kinds of stories that simmer beneath the surface, dark and disturbing, woven into the fabric of a family's legacy. They haunt the periphery, reminders of the things we wish would stay buried. The past has a way of bleeding into the present. In every family, there are things best left unsaid, parts of history that don't belong in daylight. But even secrets have a way of clawing their way out, leaving those who come across them changed forever. Some people might inherit nothing but an old locket or a dusty mirror, or they may stumble upon a hidden room filled with artifacts from a life forgotten. What they find within these relics is never quite what they expected, and it's often something they'll wish they had never uncovered at all. So tonight, as you sit in your own home, surrounded by the objects that fill your life, think about what might be lurking in the shadows. Behind the picture frames, in the attic corners, even within the family stories that never quite made sense. We begin with a tale of discovery. A family who moves into a house steeped in its own dark history, where a presence lingers in the halls, reminding them that not everything stays in the past. These stories are real, each one of them a haunting glimpse into what happens when family and darkness entwine. And if you dare, journey with me as we delve into tales that prove that sometimes the people who know you best are also the ones who can bring you the most terror. Story 1. The Unseen Visitor. When the Clarks first laid eyes on the old Ashwood house, they felt an instant connection, as if the house itself were calling to them. Nestled deep in a quiet stretch of countryside, the house held a dignified charm, a stately presence among the trees, as if standing guard over the land for generations. Its high, sweeping eaves and grand, arched windows hinted at the lavish parties and lively gatherings of a bygone era. The realtor described it as a historic gem with unmatched character, and the Clarks couldn't resist the allure. They envisioned family dinners by the grand fireplace, lazy afternoons in the sunroom, and quiet evenings under the stars on the sprawling porch. But from the moment they stepped inside, an unusual stillness seemed to envelop them, as though the air itself were holding its breath. The house was beautiful, yes, but there was something watching. A draft drifted through the hallways despite the tightly shut windows, and an odd smell, a faint, musty scent of old wood and something else they couldn't quite place, lingered in certain rooms. The children, Claire and Evan, dismissed it as the quirks of an old house, and their parents did the same. After all, it was their dream home. The first night passed quietly, though restless. The house creaked and groaned, as old houses do, settling into the coolness of the night. Claire thought she heard whispering as she lay in bed, a faint murmur just beyond the edge of comprehension. She convinced herself it was the wind and rolled over, clutching her pillow. But when morning came, she told her mother, Laura, about the whispers. "You probably just heard the wind, sweetheart," Laura replied, brushing Claire's hair back with a comforting smile. Yet, her own sleep had been troubled. She'd woken up several times to the feeling of being watched, an instinctive prickling at the back of her neck. She told herself she was simply adjusting to the new space, the echoing quiet of the country. But the whispers continued. Claire and Evan heard them every night, faint but insistent. One night, Evan awoke to find his favorite toy car missing from his bedside table. It wasn't until morning that he found it, placed neatly on the windowsill across the room, as if someone had been playing with it. He shrugged it off as his own doing, but each night, he felt a presence lingering by his door. Laura, too, began noticing small changes. Doors left open, lights flickering, and her keys appearing in odd places. At first, she chalked it up to forgetfulness, the side effect of a busy move. But when she saw a shadow dart past the doorway one evening, her heart skipped a beat. She could have sworn she was alone in the room. As the days passed, the disturbances grew more frequent. At night, the once quiet house filled with sounds, scratching, footsteps, faint whispers that seemed to follow her through the halls. The air grew heavier, pressing against her, until even the sunlight seemed dimmed by the house's shadow. Climax came one night a few weeks into their stay. The children had gone to bed, but Laura lay awake, listening to the creaks and groans of the old house. Suddenly, a loud slam echoed down the hallway, making her sit up in bed, heart pounding. She hurried to check on the children, only to find their bedroom doors wide open, a cold draft swirling through the hall. And then she saw it, a faint outline in the dark, hovering at the far end of the hallway watching. Summoning her courage, Laura called out, demanding to know who was there. Her voice shook, but she held her ground, feeling the protective instincts of a mother overpower her fear. The shadow flickered, then vanished, leaving only the silence and the echoes of her own breathing. The next day, she and her husband discovered an old, sepia-toned photograph in the attic, a portrait of the house's original residents. They were dressed in the fashion of the early 1900s, smiling solemnly at the camera. But in the background, barely visible, was a shadowy figure, standing apart from the family, as if watching from the edges. Determined to uncover the truth, Laura spent hours at the local library, searching through records and piecing together the history of Ashwood House. The records told a grim story. A brother and sister, the original heirs of the estate, had lived here many years ago. The brother had mysteriously disappeared, and rumors suggested he had fallen victim to a feud with his sister over love and inheritance. No one had seen him after that, and the whispers around town hinted at a curse upon the house, that his spirit would wander the halls until he was recognized as the rightful heir. One night, as the house settled into its usual silence, Laura gathered her family in the living room and told them what she'd learned. She spoke directly to the unseen presence, acknowledging him, the lost brother, and promising to remember him, his pain, and his rightful place within the family's legacy. She didn't know if it would work, but she hoped the gesture would bring peace. As the final words left her lips, a sudden warmth filled the room, a strange, gentle relief. The cold drafts and flickering shadows ceased, and the whispers quieted, leaving only the tranquil creaks of an old house finally at rest. The Clarks remained in Ashwood House, forever mindful of the presence that had once lingered there. The children never heard the whispers again, and Laura no longer felt the weight of unseen eyes. But every so often, as they walked through the halls or passed by the old photograph, they felt a faint reminder, a sense that the house was watching, not with malice, but with a silent acknowledgement. They had become part of its story, and in some ways, it had become a part of theirs. Story 2. The Lost Child's Whisper. The house was quiet at night, but Anna found no peace within its walls. Since her son Daniel's death, a heavy silence had filled every room, an emptiness she could almost touch. She often found herself wandering, drifting from room to room, hoping for some sign that he hadn't completely left her. Then, one cold night, she heard it, a faint whisper. At first, she dismissed it as a figment of her grief-stricken mind. But when she lay down to sleep, she heard it again, the soft, unmistakable sound of Daniel's voice, calling her from the shadows. She sat up, her heart racing, straining to listen. The whisper was so faint, just a breath of sound, but it sent a chill down her spine. "Mama," it murmured. She could almost feel his presence, as if he were standing just beyond the edge of the light, hidden in the shadows, waiting. Anna told herself it was just a dream, a memory surfacing in the quiet of the night. But the whisper persisted, coming to her each night, calling her name in that same small voice. She would lie awake, waiting, feeling the ache of his absence sharpen with every whisper. Soon, her sleep became restless, haunted by dreams of Daniel, dreams that felt more vivid, more real than any she had ever known. In her dreams, Daniel was alive, but he seemed distant, as if he were hiding something. She saw flashes of him running through fields, laughing, playing, and then fear. His face would twist in terror, looking over his shoulder as if something were chasing him. Each night, she awoke drenched in sweat, haunted by an unsettling sense that these dreams were more than just dreams. They felt like memories, fragments of something she had forgotten or maybe suppressed. As the days passed, the whispers grew stronger, more insistent. Anna found herself listening for them, waiting for nightfall with a strange, obsessive anticipation. The voice called her deeper and deeper into herself, filling her mind until there was no room for anything else. She began to withdraw from her friends, ignoring their calls, and even her husband, who looked at her with growing concern. She had no words for him, no way to explain what was happening to her. All she knew was that Daniel was calling her. She couldn't ignore him. Driven by the whispers, Anna started searching their home, tearing through drawers, boxes, and closets, as if she might find some trace of him hidden among their belongings. She scoured old photo albums, school drawings, and birthday cards, trying to piece together a picture of the son she had lost. The voice called her deeper, drawing her to places in the house she had never thought to search before. One night, the whispers led her to a small, forgotten drawer in the back of her wardrobe, a place she hadn't looked in years. Her hands trembled as she pulled it open, and inside, she found a folded letter, Daniel's handwriting on the outside, her name scrawled in a child's uneven script. She held her breath as she unfolded it, her heart pounding. The letter was short, just a few lines, but it struck her like a blow. Daniel had written it shortly before he died, in his shaky, childish handwriting. He spoke of something he had overheard, a conversation between her and another family member, someone close to them. The words were vague, but they hinted at a betrayal, a secret she had never known. The words trailed off unfinished, but the fear in his handwriting was unmistakable. He had been afraid, and she had never known. As she read, the weight of guilt bore down on her, an unbearable, suffocating grief. She had always believed his death was an accident, a tragic twist of fate. But now, doubts crept in, gnawing at her heart. Had she missed something? Had Daniel's death been more than just a senseless tragedy? Her mind raced, filling with questions, suspicions she could no longer ignore. From that night on, Anna was consumed. She became obsessed with unraveling the mystery of Daniel's letter, desperate to understand the truth he had tried to tell her. The whispers grew louder, more demanding, urging her to confront the person named in the letter, someone she had always trusted. The truth was buried in her family, and she was determined to unearth it, no matter the cost. In her desperation, she confronted her family, demanding answers, pressing them for any hint of what Daniel might have known. Tensions rose, old wounds were reopened, and painful memories resurfaced. The family was divided, torn apart by the secrets that had festered beneath the surface for so long. And as she dug deeper, she uncovered a web of deceit, a hidden story that changed everything she thought she knew. Finally, the whispers led her to a horrifying truth. The person responsible for Daniel's fear, the source of the secret he had tried to reveal, was someone she had never suspected. It was a relative, someone she had loved and trusted, someone who had hidden behind a mask of kindness. They had played a role in the tragedy, a betrayal so deep it left her reeling. The final revelation hit her like a storm. Daniel had been trying to protect her, to warn her of the danger lurking within their own family. His whispers, his visits in her dreams, had all been his way of reaching out, trying to shield her from the truth he had uncovered. He had paid the ultimate price for his loyalty, for the love he held for her, a love that had transcended even death. When the last pieces of the puzzle fell into place, Anna felt a strange sense of peace settle over her. The whispers faded, the dreams ceased, and for the first time since his death, she felt his presence truly leave her. She knew he had found peace, and in a way, so had she. The truth was painful, but it was a burden she was willing to bear, knowing that Daniel had given her the strength to confront it. In the end, Anna was left with the knowledge that family ties could be as dark and twisted as they were sacred. Secrets, betrayal, and love intertwined in ways she had never imagined. She had found closure, but at a cost that would haunt her for the rest of her life. And as she stood by Daniel's grave, the words of his last whisper echoed in her mind, a final goodbye from the child who had loved her enough to protect her, even from beyond the grave. Story 3. The Cursed Heirloom. Emily had always adored her grandmother's stories, especially those surrounding the beautiful antique locket that hung on a delicate chain around her neck. It was a stunning piece, adorned with intricate engravings and a tiny, mysterious gemstone embedded at its center. When her grandmother passed away, it was only fitting that Emily inherited it, a symbol of family love and history, or so she thought. As she accepted the locket with trembling hands, her grandmother's voice echoed in her mind. "Wear it only on special occasions, my dear. It's a family heirloom, but it carries a weight you must understand." At first, Emily took her grandmother's warning lightly. She admired the locket, tracing its designs with her fingertips, and the urge to wear it often grew stronger each day. But on the day of her first big family gathering after the funeral, she decided to don it, believing it would honor her grandmother's memory. That evening, as laughter filled the air and her relatives shared stories and memories, Emily felt a warmth envelop her, as if the locket was connecting her to generations past. However, as the night unfolded, strange misfortunes began to plague her family. Her cousin Claire tripped and fell, spilling red wine all over the tablecloth and staining her dress. The clumsiness seemed out of character for Claire, who was usually so poised. Then, during a game of charades, Uncle Tom suddenly grasped his chest and stumbled, as if struck by a sudden illness. Emily watched in horror as the evening shifted from laughter to concern, whispers echoing about how quickly things had changed. In the days that followed, odd incidents continued to unfold. Every family member who tried on the locket suffered some bizarre accident or illness. Her brother Jamie slipped in the shower, resulting in a sprained wrist, while Aunt Linda came down with a severe cold that seemed to appear overnight. Each incident felt like a piece of an unseen puzzle falling into place. Yet Emily remained convinced that it was mere coincidence, dismissing her grandmother's warnings as old wives' tales meant to keep children from playing with precious items. Yet the unease gnawed at her, urging her to explore the origins of the locket. She delved into family history, poring over old journals and records, and what she discovered sent shivers down her spine. The locket had been passed down through generations, and each holder had experienced a streak of misfortune, often followed by family tragedies. She learned that it had once belonged to an ancestor named Beatrice, a woman embroiled in a bitter feud that had ripped the family apart. It seemed that Beatrice had placed a curse on the locket, believing it would protect her descendants from outside threats. Emily felt a cold dread wash over her as she pieced together the implications of this family feud, realizing the locket was more than just a beautiful trinket. It was a harbinger of misfortune. Determined to break the cycle of suffering that had gripped her family, she sought the help of a historian who specialized in local folklore. The historian listened intently to Emily's findings, then revealed the truth. Beatrice had been a strong-willed woman who feared her family would be destroyed by jealousy and betrayal from outsiders. In her desperation to protect them, she cursed the locket, binding it to the family lineage. Your family has been cursed to suffer misfortune until the heirloom is freed from its bond, the historian explained. But be warned, the curse is powerful and will not go quietly. Feeling a sense of urgency, Emily devised a plan. She knew the only way to break the curse was to destroy the locket itself. In a moment of resolve, she gathered her family, explaining her findings and the need to rid themselves of the cursed heirloom. With their reluctant support, they gathered in the backyard, ready to burn the locket in a small fire pit. As the flames licked the air and the locket melted away, Emily felt a sense of triumph, believing they had finally freed themselves from their family's dark past. But that sense of relief was short-lived. In the days following the destruction of the locket, the family began experiencing nightmares, dreams filled with the wrath of Beatrice. Each night, Emily would awaken to her ancestor's furious voice echoing in her mind, blaming her for the destruction of the very protection she had sought to escape. Her dreams were vivid and chaotic, filled with visions of Beatrice standing at the edge of the woods, eyes blazing with anger, beckoning her to return what had been taken. The family's misfortunes had not ceased. They only shifted in nature. Accidents and illnesses transformed into dark shadows that haunted their nights, leaving Emily with an oppressive sense of dread. Desperate to find peace, Emily returned to the historian, seeking guidance on how to calm the vengeful spirit of her ancestor. "You cannot simply destroy what was meant to protect you," he said gravely. "The curse must be acknowledged and appeased, not eradicated." He instructed her to hold a ceremony to honor Beatrice, to acknowledge the pain and betrayal that had led her to curse the locket in the first place. Gathering her family once more, Emily led them in a ritual of remembrance, lighting candles and sharing stories about Beatrice's life, the sacrifices she had made, and the love she had held for her family. They spoke of their mistakes, their regrets, and the lessons learned through the pain that had rippled through their lineage. As they collectively mourned the past, a sense of calm began to settle over them, a warm light replacing the shadows that had loomed for so long. In that moment of connection, Emily felt Beatrice's presence shift, the anger fading into a sorrowful understanding. The dreams became gentler, filled with forgiveness and acceptance. The curse, though still lingering, transformed from a source of fear into a shared burden that bound the family together. They had come to recognize that some family gifts, no matter how beautiful, came with a heavy price, but they also learned the power of forgiveness, healing, and the importance of confronting their history. Emily could finally breathe without the weight of the locket's curse bearing down on her. The family had not escaped their past, but they had made peace with it, turning a curse into a reminder of love, resilience, and the complex tapestry of their family history. Story 4. The Ancestral Mirror. It was a dreary Saturday afternoon when the Thompson family decided to explore the attic of their old Victorian home, a space that had long been untouched. Dust motes danced in the dim light as the children, Max and Lily, rummaged through boxes of forgotten toys and heirlooms. Their father, Jonathan, was skeptical about any treasures they might find but indulged them, hoping to instill a sense of history in his children. As they sifted through old linens and cracked picture frames, Lily stumbled upon a large, ornate mirror leaning against the wall, its surface covered in a thick layer of dust. "Look what I found!" she exclaimed, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. Curious, Jonathan approached, brushing the dust away to reveal the intricate carvings that adorned the frame, symbols and motifs that hinted at a bygone era. "Wow, this is beautiful," Max said, his eyes wide with wonder. "Can we keep it?" With a dismissive wave, Jonathan muttered, "It's probably just an old piece of junk," but he couldn't help but admire its craftsmanship. Lily, undeterred, took a cloth and began to clean the mirror's surface. As the grime lifted, a sudden chill swept through the attic, and an eerie sensation prickled at the back of her neck. Just as the final traces of dust disappeared, she gasped, stepping back in shock. "Dad, "There's someone in the mirror," she screamed. Jonathan leaned closer, frowning in confusion, but all he saw was his own reflection. "Lily, it's just you." "No, look." She pointed, her finger trembling. And then he saw it. An unfamiliar face emerged behind his daughter's reflection, a woman dressed in clothes from a century past, her expression sorrowful, her eyes glistening with tears. "Get away from it," Jonathan ordered, pulling Lily back, unnerved by the bizarre sight. But Lily was enchanted. "I want to see more," she insisted, her childish curiosity overpowering her father's warnings. Over the next few days, the family took turns gazing into the mirror. Each time, they were met with different faces. Great-grandparents long departed, a stern-looking man in a top hat, a woman clutching a child in her arms, the latter's eyes filled with a mix of despair and longing. The mirror seemed to pull them into a vortex of emotions, revealing snippets of their family history that were both beautiful and tragic. But as the visions continued, they also began to reveal darker moments. Jonathan, once a skeptic, found himself increasingly obsessed, driven by the desire to understand the stories behind each haunting image. He would sit in front of the mirror for hours, lost in thought, scribbling down notes about his family's lineage, as if the mirror held secrets begging to be uncovered. One evening, after the children had gone to bed, Jonathan stared deeply into the mirror's surface, his eyes fixated on the weeping woman. As he concentrated, the atmosphere in the room shifted, heavy and charged. Suddenly, the image shifted to a scene from the past, a shadowy figure dragging another man into the depths of a dark room, an ancestor imprisoned and forsaken. "What are you hiding?" Jonathan demanded, speaking to the mirror as if it could respond. "Show me." The mirror began to tremble, and he felt a surge of energy pulse from it. The face of the prisoner became clearer, a look of anguish mixed with rage, and Jonathan's heart raced. This was a story of betrayal, of an ancestor wronged, forever trapped within the confines of the glass as punishment for a crime he didn't commit. As Jonathan pieced together the narrative, he realized the betrayal had roots in their family's past, long-standing feuds, jealousy, and greed. His obsession deepened. He couldn't let go. But with each new revelation, a darkness enveloped him, seeping into his thoughts and dreams. He became consumed by the spirits trapped within the mirror, feeling a connection to their pain, their anger, and their desire for justice. One fateful night, as a thunderstorm raged outside, Jonathan felt an uncontrollable urge to confront the spirit of the imprisoned ancestor. He gathered the family around the mirror, urging them to witness what had been unveiled. "This is our history," he insisted, his voice trembling with conviction. As they stood together, the air crackled with energy, and the mirror began to shimmer and shake violently. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the room as the glass shattered, sending shards flying like daggers. The family gasped, fear washing over them, but Jonathan remained transfixed, eyes wide in realization. From the depths of the shattered mirror emerged a spectral figure, the vengeful spirit of the wronged ancestor. Rage and sorrow radiated from him, his form shifting between the past and present, embodying centuries of suffering. "You have freed me," the spirit intoned, his voice a chilling whisper that resonated deep within their souls. "But with my freedom comes a thirst for justice. You shall pay for the betrayals of your bloodline." The children screamed and backed away, but Jonathan stood rooted to the spot, unable to comprehend the horror he had unleashed. I didn't mean to," he stammered, his voice lost in the chaos. The spirit's gaze bore into Jonathan, and the room plunged into darkness, enveloping them in an icy grip. "Your lineage is stained with treachery, and you shall bear the weight of its sins." As the last echoes of his words faded, the family found themselves thrown into a whirlwind of memories, visions of betrayal, despair, and loss that had plagued their ancestors. Each image cut deeper than the last, revealing the darkness that had seeped into their bloodline. In that moment, Jonathan understood the terrible truth. The past could not simply be ignored or erased. It demanded justice, and he was now bound to face the consequences of a lineage steeped in pain. As the darkness receded, the family stood together, shaken but united in their newfound understanding. The ancestral mirror had shattered, but the bond it created would last, an unyielding reminder that the past must be acknowledged and reconciled. With heavy hearts, they vowed to honor the memories of their ancestors, not by dwelling on their grievances, but by learning from them. They would strive to break the cycle of betrayal, to heal the wounds of history, and to honor those who had suffered before them. Though they could not change the past, they could forge a new path forward, one where justice and love reigned, and the weight of their ancestry became a source of strength rather than a curse. Story 5. The Hidden Room. Emma and Jake were thrilled to have finally purchased their first home, a charming Victorian on the outskirts of town, filled with character and history. They envisioned cozy evenings and family gatherings, their excitement palpable as they tore down old wallpaper and lifted carpets, dreaming of the endless possibilities. Little did they know that beneath the layers of paint and dust lay secrets waiting to be uncovered. It began one sunny afternoon during the renovations when Emma noticed an odd draft near what appeared to be a solid wall. "Jake, come check this out," she called, curiosity sparking in her eyes. He approached, skepticism etched across his face. "What are you talking about?" "Feel this," she said, placing her hand against the wall. To her surprise, she felt an unusual chill emanating from the surface. Jake, intrigued, began tapping against the wall, and to their astonishment, a hollow sound echoed back. After a few decisive knocks, a section of the wall creaked and fell inward, revealing a narrow, dark passage. "What the hell?" Jake muttered, peering into the shadows. "Let's see what's in there." They both grabbed flashlights and squeezed through the opening, their hearts racing with the thrill of discovery. What lay beyond was not merely a forgotten space, but an eerie room that seemed suspended in time. Dust hung thick in the air, and the couple was enveloped by a chilling sensation as they stepped inside. The room was lined with old family portraits, the faces twisted in expressions of sorrow and despair. They glanced at each other, unease creeping into their thoughts, but their curiosity urged them to explore further. There were scattered toys, rusted trinkets, and family heirlooms that appeared to be untouched for decades. In the corner, a stack of faded diaries caught Emma's eye. She picked one up, its leather cover cracked and worn. Flipping through the pages, her excitement morphed into dread as she read the scrawled words detailing a family tragedy, a child who had gone missing, the parents consumed by grief, and the community's whispers of madness. Each diary painted a picture of escalating despair, revealing the family's descent into darkness, punctuated by the absence of the child. "What happened to them?" Jake asked, peering over her shoulder, his expression shifting from curiosity to concern. "I don't know," Emma replied, her voice trembling. "But something terrible happened here." As days turned into nights, the couple continued their renovations, but the atmosphere in the house began to change. They found themselves waking in the middle of the night, drenched in sweat, hearts racing from nightmares that felt too real. Shadows flickered in their periphery, whispers curled around them like tendrils of smoke. Emma often felt a cold breeze brush past her, as though someone or something was watching them. "Do you feel that?" Jake would ask, his eyes scanning the darkened corners of their home, a frown creasing his forehead. "It's like we're not alone," Emma confessed, her voice barely a whisper. The hidden room became a focal point of their unrest. They were drawn back to it, despite their fears. One evening, unable to resist the pull, they returned to the eerie space, flashlights in hand. As they stood in the center of the room, Emma felt a sudden chill envelop her, causing goosebumps to rise on her arms. "Look!" Jake pointed towards the far wall, where a faint glow began to emanate. The air thickened with a heavy presence, and the glow intensified, forming a distinct outline. A child, ethereal and transparent, stood before them, wide-eyed and terrified. "Help me," the spirit pleaded, a voice barely above a whisper that echoed in the stillness. Emma gasped, stepping back. "What happened to you?" she asked, her heart pounding in her chest. The child looked around, fear etched on her face. "They left me here. I can't leave, please help." The realization hit them hard. This was not just a ghostly figure. This was a lost soul trapped by the violence and chaos of the past. "We need to find a way to help her," Jake urged, his determination ignited. As they reached out toward the spirit, the temperature in the room plummeted, a sense of urgency washing over them. "You have to leave," Emma pleaded. "You don't belong here." Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted, and the air became charged with tension. The walls seemed to close in, the echoes of the child's cries bouncing off them like a haunting melody. The child's image flickered, anguish painted across her spectral features. "If you stay, you will suffer like I did," she warned, her voice trembling. "This house wants to keep you, just like it kept me. You have to leave before it's too late." Panic surged through Emma and Jake as the realization sank in. The hidden room was not merely a relic of the past. It was a trap, a reminder of the tragic events that had unfolded, and a warning of the fate that awaited them if they did not escape its grasp. They rushed from the room, hearts racing, the chilling whispers of the spirits pursuing them, urging them to flee. As they burst into the hallway, the feeling of being watched intensified, shadows clawing at their heels. "We can't stay here," Emma shouted, grabbing Jake's hand. They fled from the house, adrenaline fueling their escape, breathless with fear and the weight of their discovery. Standing outside, the Victorian loomed before them, its once charming facade now a dark silhouette against the night sky. As the couple gazed at the house, they could feel the remnants of its tragic past pressing against them, an unseen force trying to draw them back. "What do we do?" Jake panted, his eyes wide with horror. "We can't go back," Emma whispered, shaken but resolute. "We need to tell someone to warn them." In that moment, they understood the true meaning of the spirit's messages. The history that had been hidden in the walls was destined to repeat itself if they allowed fear to chain them to that cursed place. Days later, they shared their experience with the community, sparking a movement to investigate the home's dark history and protect future inhabitants. The couple found strength in their shared ordeal, their bond forged in the face of the unknown. As they turned away from the house, now haunted by memories of sorrow, they stepped into the light of a new beginning. They carried the weight of the past with them, but vowed to rewrite their story, ensuring that the echoes of the hidden room would not find them again. History, they learned, must be faced, acknowledged, and ultimately released. Only then could the cycle of pain be broken and the spirits of the past be laid to rest. As I sit here, pen in hand, a myriad of emotions swirls within me, each tale echoing with the resonance of family secrets. These stories, rich with haunting memories and dark revelations, illuminate the intricate web of family ties, how they can bind us in love and loyalty, while simultaneously constricting us with the weight of unsaid words and unresolved traumas. Each narrative, like a flickering candle in a dark room, sheds light on the unseen burdens that we often carry, the shadows of our lineage that lurk just beyond the periphery of our consciousness. In reflecting on these tales, the whispers of lost children, the curses of heirlooms, the ancestral mirrors revealing dark histories, and the hidden rooms brimming with tragic memories, I am struck by a profound realization. The past never truly fades away. Instead, it festers and seeps into the present, shaping our relationships, influencing our choices, and sometimes even manifesting as unseen forces that pull at our very souls. Each character's descent into obsession, madness, or ultimately, revelation serves as a powerful reminder that unresolved issues demand our attention. They will not remain buried indefinitely. They creep into our lives when we least expect them, often at the most vulnerable of times, and their revelations can be both liberating and devastating. The stories remind us that ignoring these shadows does not erase them. Instead, it often magnifies their hold over us, leading to a cycle of pain and suffering that can echo through generations. I ponder whether there is wisdom in the age-old adage that family secrets should remain buried. Perhaps, in our attempts to shield ourselves from discomfort, we inadvertently perpetuate cycles of hurt and confusion. However, could it also be true that it is only through facing these deep-seated fears that we can truly find freedom? The tension between concealment and revelation hangs heavily in the air, prompting us to question the narratives we've constructed around our lives and the lives of those who came before us. Therein lies the unsettling invitation for reflection. What might your family be hiding in the shadows? What stories remain untold, left to drift in the silence of your household? Each of us carries the weight of our histories, often intertwined with the lives of our ancestors, and the implications of their actions ripple through time. The very fabric of our identities is often woven with threads of both joy and sorrow, triumph and tragedy. As I contemplate these narratives, I realize that the act of sharing and confronting these family secrets could very well be the key to our healing. By unraveling the knots of our pasts, we not only honor those who have walked before us, but also reclaim our narratives, freeing ourselves from the binds of fear and ignorance. The shadows do not have to remain oppressive. They can illuminate the path toward understanding and connection. So, I urge you, dear reader, to look closely at your own family dynamics, to peel back the layers of what is seen and what is hidden. Engage in the conversations that may feel uncomfortable or painful. Seek out the truths that may have been buried, for in doing so, you might discover not only the ghosts of your family's past, but also the profound strength that comes from acknowledging and embracing your history. In the end, we are all bound by our stories, our secrets, and our shared experiences. Whether they haunt us or empower us depends on how we choose to confront them. Perhaps the courage to unearth these secrets is the truest form of love we can offer to ourselves and to those who came before us. As we delve into the complexities of our legacies, may we find not only answers but also the grace to forgive, the wisdom to learn, and the strength to move forward.